Hey there, it's Dala here with Ecstatic Houston, and I am here to talk to you about gratitude today. So first off, we'll start with the question. Why does it seem that some people have all the ingredients for happiness, everything that you could ever want? The car, the house, the dream job, whatever it is, and yet they're not happy. And then you have other people who life has just taken everything from them and they're struggling to make ends meet and they don't have all these external things that are making them happy, and yet they're deeply, deeply happy. And I think one answer for that is gratitude. Gratitude can be a key to happiness, and all it takes is a simple shift in perspective. Now, you can't always control your external circumstances. In fact, oftentimes, or most of the time you can't, although I do think that we have more control over things than most people realize. But what you can absolutely control is your perspective. And I think that as you play with this, what you'll realize, not only does shifting your perspective have the power to change your own perspective and just how you feel about a situation, but it really does have the power to completely transform the situation itself. So let's look at an example of this. About 1.5 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4B cholangiocarcinoma, which is a very rare and aggressive form of cancer. Obviously, this was terrible news. And within less than 6 months, by December, my mother weighed less than 90 pounds. She couldn't walk. She was stuck to a wheelchair, and she was having pretty severe cognitive difficulties. So obviously this was an absolutely terrible situation. And thankfully, today, 1 year later, she has had a dramatic recovery, and that's not to say that she isn't still in a dire situation. She's still in stage 4B, but things have been taking a dramatic turn for the better, and she is mostly herself. She is able to do most of the things that she wants to do and to spend time with us. She's still able to go to work. And so, that obviously I'm thankful for that, but even outside of that, you can look at that situation and still sometimes I can fall into the trap of feeling depressed about this seemingly horrible situation that has befallen our family. My mom is very young to have this type of disease, and we expected to have a much longer amount of time together. And only time will tell what will actually happen. But in all likelihood, there's a good chance that our time will be much shorter than we thought before she was diagnosed. And one thing that I find interesting about this situation is that at this point, I've actually grown to be grateful for my mother's cancer. And I'm not saying that this is something that was easy for me or that it just happened overnight. And it's not something that I did just as an experiment, like, oh, well, I'm just gonna choose to be grateful to see what happens, and I'm just gonna look at everything through rose-colored glasses. But really reflecting deeply on the situation and what has occurred since she was diagnosed, there has been such a profound shift in our family and in our identities. My parents and everyone in our family really are essentially brand new people. And we have come together in a way and connected in a way that I don't think would have been possible if this hadn't have happened, and it caused everyone to have this dramatic shift in how we were evaluating what was going on in our lives. And that shift towards gratitude has really changed how we see every moment. We really are realizing that every moment that we have together and that we have in our health and alive is truly a gift. And so even though we're going through what many would look at as this tragedy, I think we can safely say that for the most part, we're actually happier for it. We're taking a deeper look into our lives, and we're appreciating each moment more. And I think that that's truly remarkable. Now, it's easy to say, oh, of course you're saying that, Dala, your mother's doing better. But I think that that misses the point. And sure, of course people are going to more naturally be grateful for things when things take a turn for the better. But I think that by purposefully trying to shift your perception in a way that recognizes gratitude and looks for the things to be grateful in everyday life, you can not only shift your own perspective, but it can really change the whole situation, as I said earlier. So for example, with my mother's cancer, you can shift from something that I could choose to be depressed about and unhappy about into a thing of beauty, and find the beauty in these circumstances. Now, I think it's also easy to say, well, Dala, this is just some way too overly positive hippie baloney. And I think, again, that misses the mark. And I think that, the way that we have chosen to look at this really has transformed what it has become for our family. And I know other people that either have cancer or have battled cancer that have not necessarily looked at things the same way, and it doesn't have the same result. And so it really does have the power to transform something that can be depressing and dire and terrible into a thing of beauty. Now, as with most things, the key here is consistency. And practicing gratitude on a regular basis can have a profound effect on your life, your biology, and your brain. And as with any skill, the more that you practice, the easier that it is. And if we look at it from a neurochemical perspective, you can kind of look at it as your brain is a really complex pattern recognizing computer. And whenever it successfully recognizes a pattern, it gives itself a little hit of dopamine, and we feel good, and basically our brain interprets this as, oh, this is good, I should do more of that. And so whenever you practice gratitude on a daily basis, for example, then you are literally training your brain to recognize these patterns in life and to recognize opportunities for gratitude. And it can profoundly shift how you look at the world and how you interact with the world. And so essentially what you're doing is you're reinforcing these neural pathways where you're telling your brain, hey, look for opportunities for gratitude. And your brain's like, okay. And then it finds some gratitude, and you get a hit of dopamine, which is essentially like a little dog treat for your brain. It's like, oh, I did good. And so it's like, I want to do that again. I want to do more of that. And I want it to be easier next time. And so it allocates more resources and kind of like digs that neural pathway a little bit deeper, makes more connections. And it makes that easier the next time. There's more resources allocated to it. There are more paths through the network of your brain that lead into recognizing those sorts of patterns. And so, like I said, it can really profoundly shift how you perceive the world. And it becomes easier with practice. So let's see if we can experience some gratitude. So I invite you to just take a moment. Take a seat if that's more comfortable for you. Close your eyes. Just take a few deep breaths. Fully expanding your lungs and fully exhaling. And as you do so, see if you can find a few things to be grateful for. Now, these can be little things like the smell of coffee in the morning, the play of sunlight on the counter, or your dog. Or it could be deeper, more profound things, like your family, or the fact that you have a safe place to sleep and food to eat, or the fact that against all odds, you're even alive at all. Let's Just take a few deep breaths as you reflect on these things and see if you don't notice a change in your state, in your mind, in your body. And so we only took a few moments there. And the point I was trying to make here is that this is a very simple practice. It's really easy to implement. It doesn't take much time. I mean, you can do less than a minute, less than 30 seconds if you want. I mean, I'd suggest at least 30 seconds or a few breaths, however you want to do it, but it doesn't take much. It's practical, it's easy, and it doesn't take much time. And it's something you can easily implement on a daily basis. So if you're wanting to start a practice in gratitude, what's the easiest way? And my recommendation would be to physically write down, or these days maybe put it on your phone, but I would suggest physically writing it down, just because of the way your brain interacts with that type of motion. And be specific. Choose a time and a location. So for example, at 6 a.m. every morning when I wake up, I will spend 1 minute reflecting on gratitude while the teapot boils. And for bonus points, you can maybe even try adding on some positive thoughts for others. There are numerous studies that have shown the various benefits of practices like these. We've already talked about some of the benefits for your mind and your perspective, how it can shift your mood and how it can affect changes in your neural structuring. And it also can have health benefits. This is pretty well documented. Gratitude and loving kindness for others reduces your heart rate, it reduces your blood pressure, reduces stress in your life and the amount of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and really just is kind of a portal into happiness. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I look forward to speaking with you more.